Okay. All right, let's get. Just pull it. Just pull the door. There you go. Okay. Welcome everybody to Comp 2112, basically JavaScript Part 2, although it's called Advanced Client-Side Scripting. Most of you are new. I know a couple of you from previous classes. So welcome. Just before we get started, if you look at Blackboard, the announcements, I did a greeting here. I made a link here for you, what topics you're interested in. Give me a shout what, maybe I can work in something that you're interested in. Hopefully I can work it in near the end of the semester. Also install Visual Studio Code if you haven't already, and create a CodePen account if you haven't already. I'm live streaming this class on YouTube, so I'll do that every week. So yeah, any questions before we get started? Actually, I'm curious, show of hands, who here is from the CIS program? Yeah, okay, just wondering. Okay, I know I had that last year too. Josh, what's up? Okay, so let's start with something fun. Who knows the game Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Who wants to volunteer for that game right now in front of the class? Who wants to? Yeah, okay, here, come up here. Stand right here. Face the screen so you can't see your friends. All right, but you will have your options. So I'll give you 50-50. So I'll give you, if you choose the 50-50, you know how that works. You can ask the audience. So you can turn around. I'll say, people raise their hands for A, B, C, or D. You can phone a friend, which means you can talk to your best friends, trying to get, the answer. So we'll work it like that. If you get it wrong, you can sit down, and another person will take your place, and we'll carry on to where you left off. All right, cool. All right, so this will hopefully be a review from Comp 1073. Let's see here. All right. So yeah, this website's kind of cool. It's called Super Teacher Tools. It allows you to make games. So here we go. What is it called when you provide a base level of user experience, then add more advanced functionality when the browser supports it? Is it A, semantically correct, B, accessible, C, user experience, or D, progressive enhancement? What do you think? Oh, I wish I had the music. Oh, wait, I could, hold on. Music. Yeah. Yes, an hour, yes. Okay. Whoa.
Get online for less.
Oh. Okay. What do you think? Oh, sorry, what's your name? Say it again? Navjot. Okay, so what do you think? A, B, C, or D? What do you think? I need an answer. You can use one of your lifelines. You can use one of your lifelines, like ask the audience or phone a friend or 50-50. I need an answer. B. Is that your final answer? Okay, not sure. Okay, let's try it out. B. Are you sure? Yes or no? Yes? Ah, that was not correct. Okay, next volunteer to take his place. Stand up right here. Good try, though. Anyone next? Josh, come up. And we should make this like a real game show. We should like interview who's here, right? So this is Josh, everyone. Say hi to Josh. Hey, Josh. So where have you been working in the summer?
So I've been working at Pavlix.com down the road, just working on their product portal connector as an ASP.NET developer.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So stand right here and face the screen. And what do you think is the answer? A, B, C, or D?
D.
D. Final answer?
Yes.
You are correct. Next. What is the following called? A, is it an anonymous function? B, is it an immediately invoked function expression? C, self-invoked anonymous function? D, self-executing anonymous function?
I'm going to say D.
Yeah. B, final answer? You're correct. Very good. We need an applause for that. That was good. All right. Excellent. What did you type at the top of your script to change runtime behavior? For example, previously accepted mistakes now turn into errors. Is it A, use strict, B, const, C, console.log, whatever, D, internal doc? What do you think?
That would be A, use strict.
Yeah. Final answer? Yay. Very good. All right. Next. No, we'll keep on going. We'll keep on going until you get. We have 15 questions here. What kind of data type is this? Is it A, an array, B, an object, C, a variable, D, undefined?
I'm going to guess.
We can use the lifeline too if you want.
I'll guess it's an array.
An array. I'm sorry, that was not the correct. Okay, you get the hand for John. Who's next to take his place? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, Zach? No. Okay. No. Should I just continue it myself, maybe? No volunteers. Okay, we'll do it all together then. Let me just do that again. So what type of data type is this? Actually, does anyone know? Object? Yes. What operator do you use to concatenate a string? Plus, minus, divide, times. What is it? Plus, good. All right. Fill in the blank. Var p equals blank dot get element by ID intro. Good. Document. Fill in the blanks to listen for a click event. Submit button dot blank blank. Say it again. D. I heard D first. Yep. If you wanted to disable the get or post action of a button, submit button, what line of code could you use in function event? What was that? D. Good. To instantiate a new XHR object, you may type what? How about someone over there? Someone over there? Yes? No? Someone over here? Corner table? Anyone? No? Anyone here? Oh, I heard, okay. I heard A. A, right? Nice. All right. To get all the paragraph elements, you would usually type what? To get all the paragraph elements, you would usually type what? Oh. Okay, show of hands, who says A? I heard A. Show of hands, who says B? Show of hands, who says C? Show of hands, who said Z? All right, C it is. You're right. Good job. Fill in the blank. If request.readystate equals blank and request.status equals 200. This is related to the XHR stuff. I don't know if you remember that. I'll give it to you because I think it's kind of tricky. It's D. The term AJAX has evolved. Its most agreed upon definition is currently is this. I'll give this one to you as well. Originally, it was called this, asynchronous JavaScript and XML, but now it's just like, it's not really that, so they just stop calling it an acronym. Okay, name one thing that JSON can't do that JavaScript objects can. Show of hands, who says A, B, C, D. C. What is the output of the following? Show of hands, who says A, B, C, D. Oh, no one's quite sure. Okay, have to remember in JavaScript, in this kind of thing, the plus is like the string concatenator. Even though this 3 is not a string, because this is a string and you're using that, it'll turn this into a string and make it 53, right? Whereas this one, it'll turn into an integer kind of thing. Last question. This is one of those quirks that JavaScript is known. I'll just give you this one as well. If you're not sure, if I give you a question on a quiz and you're not sure, I want you to actually type in the console. So if you right-click any web page, inspect, go to console, type in whatever you want, whatever JavaScript code you want, enter. Okay, there's the answer. It's a blank string. So that's the answer. So I encourage you to do that during your quizzes. All right, there we go. Great. Woohoo! Okay. Let us. Hopefully that was fun for you and a review. Okay, let's talk about syllabus. FYI, faculty information is right here. I work in the library, by the way. That's my main full-time job. I just do this for fun, part-time. And you can visit me anytime in the library, Monday to Friday. I work there from 8 to 4. I'm usually in my office, which is room K210L. If I'm not there, just email me to set up an appointment. The course information, syllabus. I should say that this syllabus, I'll probably change it as we go along, as I think of better ways to teach. I've taught this class once last year. That was during the college strike. So I want to try to make the syllabus better than last year as we go along. All right, so we're in the right class. Good. There is no required textbooks for this class. However, I do want you to pay attention to this wonderful link here. I found, and I will share. This link here, devfreebooks.github.io, has all free books on different programming languages. Actually, if I just take off the JavaScript portion of the path, there. So you have all these free books for all the different languages. JavaScript. The one I want to highlight is this one right here. I think that's very good. It's very short and to the point. And all of these books, You Don't Know series, those are great to read as well. Email, Office. So here's what you're going to do for this class. I've divided it up into 2 assignments, a bunch of in-class exercises, a bunch of weekly labs, a bunch of quizzes, a midterm, and your in-class presentation. Things I want to say are, notice how I weighted them. Every year, for every class I've taught, I usually get students that fail because they don't care about the labs or the in-weekly exercises. They just want the big assignments. So I made the big assignments not so big in terms of weight. I've made the in-class exercise and the weekly labs big. Yeah. So it pays for you to really follow. So this is the first time, this is my experiment. See if that works. So basically every week, except for today, you'll have a quiz, an in-class exercise, and a lab. Okay, so the quiz is 1%, in-class exercises are 2%, labs are 2% each. Okay. In terms of due dates, I've staggered it throughout the week. So the in-class exercise, I'm going to give you time each class to finish it, in-class exercise, so you don't have homework. If you don't finish it, it's due midnight Wednesdays. Your labs, I've made it so it'll be due every Friday, midnight. Your quizzes will be due every Monday, midnight. Okay, and you can take your quiz anytime between like Friday and Monday. Okay, my purpose of staggering them is I was reading this teaching philosophy thing, how to make students retain information quickly, and they say constant repetition throughout. So that's why I staggered it. Okay. And this in-class presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of topics that I've been following on Twitter that I haven't had a chance to read up on, and they're all the hottest stuff. So as a group, you can form groups between 2 and 4, and you can present on whatever topic you feel interested in teaching for 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so basically, JavaScript part 2, we're doing a lot of ES6 stuff and ES6 plus stuff. And the framework we're going to touch upon is Vue, which I like a lot. Okay. Any questions on the syllabus or anything like that? Okay, great. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to take a quick, brief history and look at JavaScript from 1995 to where we are now. Number 2, we're going to introduce you to let, const, template, literals, a little bit of JSON, a little bit of objects. Actually, I'm curious. Who here, show of hands, who was here had Scott McCrindle for 1073? Okay. Did you touch on let or const? No. Okay. All right. Good. And 3, hopefully I'll get to this. If not, I'll just leave links for YouTube videos that I've recorded previously. We'll get to ESLint, Prettier, Debugger, and console stuff. Okay. All right, so just a quick overview of where we've been in JavaScript and where we are now. The actual formal name is called ECMAScript. So in the beginning, when it was first created, it was really meant for the Netscape Navigator browser. Who remembers that? Netscape. Only one. And everyone, when they first heard of JavaScript, they thought it was a toy language. It was like, it's not a real language like C or Java. And then over time, what happened is around here, around 2015, I would say, actually 2015. That's when the game changer happened, in my opinion, for JavaScript. So each of these dates is when there was an upgrade to the language, but the major one is this one. And that's why if you hear the term ES6, that's what this refers to, edition 6 of JavaScript. Okay. And that ES6 on June 2015, that's when the language itself changed. And that's why you're hearing a lot of different things like React, Angular, Node, and different things like that. It's because of that. And each year, it keeps progressing. It keeps changing. The reason it keeps changing is because there's a group called TC39. TC39, sort of like the gods of JavaScript, they kind of control where the language shifts. Let me see if I have an example. So here's an example. So anyone here in this room can actually suggest a change to the language of JavaScript. And if you do submit a change, it'll be at stage 0. And then if they take it kind of seriously, they'll be at stage 1. And they'll do all of this kind of testing and stuff. And once it reaches stage 2, stage 3, you can bet your bottom dollar that the next version of Chrome, the next version of Firefox will have your changed feature for JavaScript. Okay, so every year there's little changes that keep on happening. What is TC39? Let me just play a YouTube clip of TC39.
I just created a Wix website for my business.
This was happening at a JavaScript conference last year.
I'd like to take that on. So TC39 is the standards committee that defines JavaScript. So it's been around basically as long as the language has been. We meet every 2 months for 3 days, and we talk about potential changes to the language. So this is the group that designed ES6, and it's also designed async await. The spec is designed on GitHub.
Yeah, the other thing is TC39 works on JavaScript standardization, which is distinct from web standardization, which is done by other standards orgs. So a lot of the APIs that you use, maybe you're not sure. Set timeout. Often people aren't sure, but that's actually a web API. The things in the JavaScript language are actually pretty small, and so we're focused a lot on language features, syntax, and a very small core library.
All right, so let's stop at that. So that's a quick introduction to the people in charge of JavaScript. This video I found really interesting. So we're just going to watch 4 minutes of this. And he's talking about how the creator of JavaScript back in the day, his name is Brendan Eich, he was asked by Netscape to create a scripting language for the browser. And he only had 10 days to create something. And this is where he got his inspiration from.
And the way they wanted it to work was...
He got it from the Apple computer back in the day.
The system had been developed by Bill Atkinson at Apple, which made Macintosh programming really easy. You could have a bunch of buttons and attach simple scripts to them and cause things to happen. So they wanted to do something similar to that, instead of to a stack of cards, as Atkinson had done, to a web page. And in order to do that, they hired this guy, Brendan Eich, who had been at Silicon Graphics, brilliant guy. In his interview, he said he wanted to write a Scheme interpreter. They said, that's great, that's just what we want. After they hired him, they found out what Scheme was. They said, no, you can't do that. People would like that. Do something that's more like Visual Basic or Java, something people like. So he did that. So he combined elements of 3 languages. Java, because he was told he had to, and 2 really interesting languages, 2 failed languages, in the sense that they got 0 market acceptance, but 2 brilliant languages and 2 highly influential languages. So they're known not much to the general programming community, but they're very well known to program language designers. And it was a surprising choice to take features from those 2 languages. Scheme was a dialect of Lisp, which was inspired by Carl Hewitt's actor model. Brilliant language, probably the best implementation of functions in any language we've ever seen. Self was a brilliant language that came out of Xerox PARC originally. It was taking Smalltalk and stripping it down to a simpler language in order to make it go faster. And it turned out in making it simpler, they actually made it profoundly better. That project then moved to Sun Labs. So for a time, Sun was supporting research into both Java and Self. And at some point, Sun made a decision and killed one of them. In my opinion, they killed the wrong one. Self was clearly the better language. Brennan took elements of all three of these languages and a little bit of his own and put them together into a new language that was called LiveScript. And LiveScript was going to become one of the key technologies for Netscape going forward. It was going to be in Netscape Navigator 2, so you could have LiveScript applications running on the client side and on the server side. Netscape's Livewire server had server-side JavaScript. It was back in '95. So JavaScript was there from the very beginning. It was very clear that at the time that there was a lot of excitement about Java and the Netscape browser, and Sun and Netscape decided they needed to work together against Microsoft, because if they didn't join forces, Microsoft could play them off against each other and they both lose. And the biggest point of contention in that arrangement was what to do with LiveScript. Sun's position was, well, we'll put Java into the Netscape browser, we'll kill LiveScript, and that'll be that. And Netscape said no, that they really believed in the HyperCard-like functionality. They wanted a simpler programming model in order to capture a much larger group of programmers. And so there was an impasse, and the relationship almost broke up when I think Mark Andreessen, I haven't been able to document this, but people have told me Mark Andreessen, maybe as a joke, suggested, let's change the name to JavaScript. And it worked. Except that Sun claimed ownership of the trademark. Even though they had nothing to do with the language, they tried to kill the language. They said, we own the trademark. We'll give you a license to use the trademark. It's great. An exclusive license, only we can call it JavaScript, that's fine.
So JavaScript, the name JavaScript is trademarked, but ECMAScript is not. So in terms of the big idea there, he took JavaScript is basically a combination of three languages. He took the syntax of Java, and that's why the JavaScript language looks like Java in the terms of syntax. But in terms of functionality under the hood, it's more like the other two languages he talked about. So that was then. This is now. If we go to the most popular languages on GitHub, this is a survey. And I'll show you that survey in a second. But in your mind, think of the top three. What do you think number 1, 2, and 3 is? What's number 1? JavaScript. What's number 2? PHP. Number 3? Let's see. Let's go to there. So here's it's called octoverse.github.com. The chart is somewhere here. Oh, there it is. 15 most popular languages on GitHub. Number 1, JavaScript. Number 2, Python. Number 3, Java. 2018. The biggest gap in knowledge is with JavaScript frameworks. So a lot of employers are looking for graduates with JavaScript knowledge. Actually, Scott McCrindle told me the other day, all during the summer, he had to support students through phone, telling them how to do JavaScript for co-op. It was kind of funny. So all of this, let me open this survey here. So here's another survey by research.hackerrank.com. And developers are learning the languages employers are looking for most. What languages do employers look for by industry? Number 1, JavaScript. Number 2, Java here. Okay. And I think there's another chart below that. The biggest gap in knowledge is the JavaScript frameworks. And so here, the AngularJS, Node.js, React, what else you got? Express.js, React Native, Vue.js, Backbone, all of that's JavaScript. Stack Overflow. Survey in 2018. Most popular technologies in terms of programming languages, scripting languages, and markup languages. Number 1 is JavaScript. Number 2 is HTML. So it's for the 6th year in a row, JavaScript is the most commonly used programming language, right? So you get the idea. In fact, it's becoming so big that you have articles that look like this. JavaScript is eating the world. In case you haven't heard the news, JavaScript and Node are single-handedly eating the world of software. Node, what's Node, you may ask? Here's some 9 companies who use Node.js. You're wondering what's the hype about Node? Basically, Node is JavaScript on the server side. So all this time before, we had JavaScript on the browser, which is client side, right? Browser is client. So in 2009, I think, a guy named Ryan Dahl created Node, which means you could run JavaScript on the server now. And that changed everything. So here are some companies that use Node. PayPal, they switched to Node. LinkedIn, Yahoo, Mozilla. And if you read the comments here, you know, it's really interesting why they switched, if you have a chance. Netflix, Uber, Groupon, and eBay. And yeah, so if you have a chance to read them, just each section has why did they choose Node, and it gives a nice reason why. Also, JavaScript is really good for animation. So here's one JavaScript library called GreenSock, which is the most popular animation software that professionals like to use. Oh, I think I forgot something. You can have augmented reality too, except I forgot my paper, which I was going to show. Basically, if I was going to show a piece of paper that had a marker, like a square on it, and then whenever I'd just turn it, you'd see an actual cube turn along with the paper, which is kind of neat for augmented reality. This happened a few months ago, but for every year, Google has a conference. And so here, let's see what they're talking about here. We'll just watch a few minutes of this.
V8 team at Google. And V8 is the JavaScript engine that's used in Google Chrome and in other embedders such as Node.js and JavaScript started out as the scripting language of the web, and to this day, it's still a crucial piece of web technology. But today, JavaScript's reach extends far beyond the web to the entire surrounding platform. So if we take a step back from just V8 and Chrome, we can see that JavaScript allows you to build engaging web experiences that work in a wide variety of browsers. And with Node.js, JavaScript can be used to build powerful command line tools, servers, and other applications. React Native enables building cross-platform mobile apps also using JavaScript. With Electron, JavaScript and other web technologies can be used to build cross-platform desktop apps.
Oh, let me close it there. So what he's saying about the desktop apps is this. Visual Studio Code. What else? GitHub desktop. Atom. You know, you've all used Skype, I'm sure. What do all of these desktop apps have in common? Answer. They're all built with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS through something called Node, through something called Electron. So Electron, electronjs.org allows you to build those applications on the desktop using nothing but web technologies. That's how far we've come for JavaScript. Yep, articles. It's now even heading toward the robotic atmosphere. So you have this one called NodeBots that I found. Let me just play a little bit of this. What is this clip I put here? This one here.
Marketing is actually simple. You should take online courses and Udemy.
You get the idea. So he has all these different robots that do different things, and it's all just JavaScript. Internet of Things robotics powered by JavaScript. There's this package called Johnny 5. So if you visit their website, johnny5.io, you have your own kit that you can npm install it. You just write JavaScript like this, led.blink, and it'll do what you asked it to. You have different stacks. So with the invention of Node, you probably heard of something called the mean stack, or the MERN stack, or the Maven stack. So the mean stack, which you will learn next semester, that involves. Let me just open all of these at once then, as we're waiting. So the mean stack, that deals with MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and Node. So basically all JavaScript. And because Angular is a client-side front-end package, you could substitute that with React, and that's why you have MERN. Or substitute that with Vue, which gives you Maven stack. So we have all kinds of different stacks. And in fact, the stacks are evolving so quickly that even newer stacks are coming out. Something called the Jam stack is a newer architecture based on client-side JavaScript, which the J stands for in Jam, and the A stands for APIs, and the M stands for pre-built markup or markdown. So let me just show you what's happening here. Let's watch a few minutes of this.
If you have to run a program every time something comes to something popular, things tends to blow up, and you like everybody knows it. Going to head and receiving a popular link and clicking through just to get a database error. So what we are like the reason we're here talking about Jamstack is that we believe that there's like a shift happening in the architecture of the web. If we go way back to before the web, we had this relatively simple client-server model of Unix systems, where you would run a fairly heavy client locally, you would connect to some workstation, like some big mainframe or the like, and get you a large slot, and you would work, and there would be this very clean client-server model. Then, as we moved into the modern web, or sort of to the initial phase of the web, and build out Web 2.0 and all of that, we started building out this model where instead we had like a client that's the browser talking to a web server, that would talk to an app server, that would talk to a database, and then to actually make it work, we would need to start introducing all these layers of caching between each of those different elements, memcache running, and so on. And what we're starting to see now is a switch from that approach to a model that's not client-server, but client services, where we start fragmenting the instead of having this monolithic origin, we're starting to be able to take the main application, distribute it directly all over the world on a content delivery network, and then talk straight from the browser to lots of different small services. And that's something we think that will lead to a fairly big change in how we build websites and how we think about web platforms. Basically a new stack, right, where you pre-build as much as you can through build tools, and you decouple the front end and the back end completely. You integrate very closely with this Git-driven workflow that we're all starting to work with. Forgive me, it's just happened, right? Like it's become the main way we work as developers. We check in, we create pull requests, we create branches. So the logical step is to hook that up to a continuous delivery process, and every time we work in Git, it's reflected in this automated build process and pushed to a content delivery all over the world. And then we'll see this economy of all these small microservices, where some of them will be things we build ourselves, some of them will be managed services by other people, and some of them will be traditional larger APIs and so on, but there'll be a large variety. And if we do this right, we can get a web that will be many, many times faster, that will really deal at a much more profound level with the issues of malware, and it will out of the box be easy to handle essentially any amount of traffic you can throw at it.
Basically, what he's saying is that you can now develop websites with just uploading your text content to GitHub, and then something in the back will take that text content, turn it into HTML, spit it into a CDN server so that your website is now fast and secure. So it's basically like static HTML pages all over again, but it's using APIs to make it interactive. So it's not really static. It's more like hyper interactive slash really interesting. Okay, so that's just an intro, quick intro. That's a lot of consuming of information and video. Now we're going to get into coding. So this is where you'll get to your hand into coding a little bit. So let's just introduce ES6 let and const and template literals. Before I move on to this new topic, any questions or comments that you've so far of what you've seen or heard? Anything that interests you or anything that wasn't too clear? Okay. FYI, this website called REPL.it. I found this one website where you can actually have an online interpreter for not only JavaScript, but a bunch of other languages too. So I'm just using this for an example, just because it's better for teaching, I think. Okay. Let me just see here for a second. Okay. Let me just show you one of the books that I was talking about. So back into the JavaScript. Oops. Back in here, JavaScript. The one book I was referring that you take a look at is this one called Exploring ES6. Let me just show you what they have to say about const and let. So in Comp 1073, you used var. And that's what we have here. We're using var. What do you think? Okay, so here's a variable x equals 3. Okay, here's a function declaration. You got function func. And if this is true, that means this code block will run. Inside that code block, you have a var x equals a math.random, which means it would probably override this 3, and it'll return that x. If false, it doesn't run that code block. In either case, if it's true or false, it still returns whatever value x is. So before I run this, what will it output? What will it output over here? Will it output 3 or some random number? Show of hands, who thinks 3? Show of hands, who thinks some random number? Okay, not sure. Okay. Let's run it. Run. Undefined. So why is it undefined? So this is what I'm talking about here is when you learned var back in 1073, I don't know if Scott has told you about the scope of var. And let me just go back to this book for a second here. In ES5, when you declare var, such variables are function scoped, meaning that when it's declared here, the bounds of this is from here to here in terms of scope. So what's really going on is that this line right here is kind of deceiving. What's really going on is in JavaScript, it interprets that line as this. Var x, and it assigns it down there, which is more obvious. So when you run the function and you pass false, false is now there. If false, but notice this is declared without any value, and that's why you see undefined here, like there's nothing. Okay. But in ES6, you have something called let or const, which are block scoped. So if I switch everything to a let, so change both vars to let. Hold on, that doesn't make sense. I had to put it there, that's why. X equals 3 because now let, as this book says, what does it say here? Let and const, such variables are block scoped, no longer function scoped. What does that mean? What does a block mean? Block means this bracket right here. That means the scope of this, let x, is within this, starting from this bracket to this bracket. It's no longer out here. No, that was only with var, yes, but no longer. Okay. So the general consensus among professional JavaScript developers is this. Prefer consts. So if you know that your value will never change, instead of var, from now on, use const. Otherwise, use let for values that do change. And now, the advice is avoid using var. So because we're moving toward a more modern JavaScript, I want to push you toward ES6+, which means in your assignments, in your labs, no longer use var, rather use let or const. And if I see in your labs or assignments let vars, then I'll take off, I don't know, minus 0.1. All right, so just very little, but just enough. Okay, minus 0.1 for each var. For each var I see, I'll minus 0.1. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you had a chance to open my slides. So every week in my announcements here, I'll at the bottom of the announcement, I'll usually say, here's a link to today's slides. So if you click on that link, and I urge you to click on that link now, because on slide 23, I have some not in-class exercises in terms of marks, but just in-class exercises in terms of just learning it right now. Okay. Let's start with this. Yeah, sure. So in Blackboard for this course, under my first welcome one, at the very bottom, you'll see this link right here, slides for today's class. If you click it, it should open this week's class. Am I going to post it every week as well? Oh, nah. You mean here? I guess I should, but usually this is my style. So make sure you read the announcements every week. A lot of good stuff is there. All right, so here's the difference between var and let. Okay, so in the past, if you said something like this, var height equals some value, and then right after that, pretty much you said var height equals 200. Show of hands, who thinks it's going to error out? Who thinks it's not going to error out? Yeah, so it's not going to error out. It's okay. JavaScript is cool like that. But you may have discovered in other more stricter language like Java, C, C++, that's a no-no. It will complain. So let's try the same thing with let. So I'm going to replace both vars with let. Run it. Let's see what happens now. You will see this syntax error a lot if you don't know what you're doing. So identifier height has already been declared because we're trying to assign height twice. So how to solve that? What do you think? How to solve that? What do you think? How to solve this? So that it works. Well, I would just take away the let here. If I really want to assign height to 200, just take away the let, right? There. Now we're back. We're all good, right? Because let, you can change it, whereas const, you can't. So if I say const, let's try this. Const height equals 100. Let's see what happens now if I run it. Const means I can't change that value. There. Assignment to constant variable. I'm trying to assign 200 to height, but height has already been declared a constant. So that means it can't change. Okay. Cool? What am I saying here? Var, our function scope, or global scope, let our block scoped. We're in 1 or 2 vars. Okay, so here I have a variable, points equals 50, winner equals false. If 50 is greater than 40, which it is at this point, I'm going to console log enter if. Now here's something interesting, var winner equals true, which kind of that. So what do you think this will print if we're using var? So the question I have for you is this. Is this var winner, remember it's either functionally scoped, meaning it's between the 2 squiggly brackets if it's within a function. Is this within a function? No. So cancel that. The other option is it's globally scoped. And when I say globally, in the case of the browser, the global scope is window. Okay, so window is the global scope. So because this squiggly bracket is not the function bracket, it's just an if bracket, that means nothing to this var. Var is like, I can escape out of that, right? So what's really happening is var winner is kind of inserts itself here. Then down here, what's really happening is var winner equals true. So I would anticipate, let me undo what I just did. You run it, I would anticipate that this should be true based on that. It is, entered if true. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's change it to let. Changing all the stuff, the vars to let. Okay. Let, what kind of scope is that? It's block scope, meaning it's going to find the first squiggly brackets that it's in. Here. So now these brackets count. That means the scope of that let is only within those brackets. It's not out of that, which means if I run it, it's now pointing to this false one, right? It can't see this true one. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's good. What kind of data type am I doing here? What kind of data type is this? We had this in the game. What kind of data type is that? It's an object. Okay, so I'm assigning this object to a variable called person, and I'm console logging that person. Okay, so let me just console log the person. There it is. You see the person right there. Great. Here's the thing. Const okay, before I explain it, let me show you. So person is a constant, right? The question I have for you is, theoretically, I can't change that. But watch what happens. So I say person equals some other object. So name Bob. It should error out because it's a constant. I can't change that. Assign it to a constant variable. That makes sense, right? Even if I had the same data. So this, what I just typed here, is the exact same data as that, but if I run it, same thing. But what happens if I say this? Person, first of all, how do I change the variable of this alpha to something else? What do I say? Person dot what? Right? Person dot name equals else. Now if I run it, the object has changed. So what's happening? I thought it was a const. So basically what's happening is const means you can't change the reference, but you can change the value. Okay, what I just said kind of, because I just said you can't change the value of the other ones. So I wish I had chalk. Anyways, think of when it comes to objects, you can't assign a new object like this because what you're really doing is you're trying to change the address of where this is pointing to. It's basically a pointer. This is a pointing to a certain memory allocation in the memory that has that data type, and that's a no-no because we already said const. But you can still change the different key properties in that object. That's okay. Okay, so that's the big idea there. Any questions so far? So when it comes to basic variables like const, string, const number, that's simple. You know that. You can't change that. But when it comes to objects, it's a little tricky. You can't change the reference to a new object, but you can change the key and properties within that object. So in the game, we talked about this, and show of hands, how many did this in your previous 1073 class? How many did IFEs? Yeah, just a couple? Oh. So the reason why IFEs were invented, so if you ever come across an IFE, it kind of looks like this right here. Like this. Except where to go. And it looks like this. Kind of weird. So you have a bracket before the function. You have like pair of brackets after the function, followed by another bracket. What the heck is that? So back in var land, right, before let and const, people started realizing that, oh, var is a problem. We shouldn't let it escape, kind of thing. So a clever guy realized, oh, with JavaScript, you could do something like this, which is called an IFE. And it encapsulates all the vars in there, so it'll never, ever escape out of that kind of thing. And it'll run immediately, which is good. However, based on this book, so in the past, you had to use a pattern called IFE if you wanted to restrict the scope of vars. So here's an example of that. Here's an IFE right here. And you had a var in there. So you had to do that kind of style in the past. Now, with ES6 let and const, with ES6, you can simply use a block in a let declaration or a const declaration. So just put a squiggly bracket there, and inside put your lets or your const, and you're good to go. That's something new. We didn't have that before. Okay, so avoid ifs in ES6. You now can use something much simpler and better. Okay, so here's an example. Here's an IFI right here. Can I access this globally? So if I say console log name, if it accesses it. No, name is not defined. Why? Because it's encapsulated with this IFI syntax. So whatever's within this IFI syntax, like whatever vars are here, it's not going to escape that. Now, if we say, what is this? Inside log. If I comment that out, I just use what we were just taught. So squiggly bracket, let name equals alpha, right? Let's see if we can access name. We shouldn't, because let is block scoped, and here's the nearest block, these squiggly brackets. So run, I get the same error. And you no longer have to use ifs, which is kind of convoluted way of doing that. You can just use the blocks. Let is what kind of scope? It's block. So var is what kind of scope? Function scope. Let and const are block scope. Here's another popular example for interviews. You might get asked this for an interview. Actually, not that one. Let me just run this for a second. Okay, so the first question, actually, okay, that interview question is actually down here, so forget what I just said. I'll come to that in a second. So this one here, the question I have is, can I do this? I think I have access to I if I is declared as a var. The answer is yes. Here it is. So I is 10. Okay, just to make it more obvious, I'll say this in quotes. So I'll use the I is blah, blah, blah. So run there. I is 10. So you could, that kind of makes sense because this I is a variable that was declared here, which is a var, which means, you know, it's out of this, right? Because this means nothing to var. But if I change it to let, I is not defined, right? Because let is, the scope of let is between the block. That makes sense? So here's the interview question. That's quite popular. Let me just run this. So this is a for loop, right? Now this you may have, I don't know if you've seen this function before. Show of hands who've seen set timeout. So basically this is an asynchronous function. So what's going to happen is in 1,000 milliseconds, which is equivalent to 1 second, after 1 second, it's going to run whatever is inside this function. So what's inside that function? It's this statement here. Okay, so after 1 second, it's going to display that information. What do you think will display out here? Let's see. Oh, forget that one. Here it is. Just pay attention to this. Boop. That's what you'll see. The number is 10. Let me show you what happens when I change the var to let. Run. That's more like it. So what happened? Again, with var is kind of like up here. And then it gets assigned down here. So what's happening is that this loop is running faster, is running very fast, and it's calculating the variable 10. And by the time it finishes, set timeout, which happens much later, finally looks at the variable I and says, oh, it's 10. And then it finally runs that kind of thing. But if you had let in there, which is scoped, again, block scoped within the squiggly brackets, the squiggly bracket right here, then it gives the pattern that you would recognize. So if you ever see an interview question of why does this var give you all 10s and not what you would expect, the answer is use let. The final thing I want to say about let and const is something called the temporal dead zone. So let's just run this for now. So we have a pizza variable with a string, and we're console logging pizza, and you got deep dish. So let's see if I reverse that. What will console log say? Now notice we're using let. Okay, so let's see what happens. Run. Haha, pizza is not defined. Whereas if it was var, you get a different error. You just get undefined. Right? So what's happening with var again is if it's var pizza, it's almost as if var pizza was up here and then assigned down here. So that's why this is undefined. But if you have let, you have let here, it never goes above that. There's no hoisting. It's called hoisting. It just stays there. And that's why this gives you the other error, pizza not defined. So it's important to see these errors and to recognize them when you're coding, so you'll kind of know what's happening. Level 6. Let me see here. Like a break, or you want to keep on going? You feel like a break? Show of hands who wants a break. Okay, break time it is. I'll give you 20 minutes. Hey, Josh, what's happening, bud?
How's it going, man? Oh, I'm still there, actually. Yeah, so I only have 2 classes this semester. The one last night, so a video one, and then this one, the last 2 classes in the morning.
Oh, okay. So then
you're
graduating from this program.
Yeah, well, I have 1 more year of computer program.
Right.
Yeah, third year.
Okay. In terms of this diploma, you have.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I have a question for you, just what we just did. So it's interesting, like if lead doesn't voice variables, it also doesn't voice functions.
That's a good question.
Test.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, because honestly, that is, I realize that this block scope versus function.
Yeah.
A lot of sense why it's there.
Yeah. Let's see here. So you're saying you have some kind of let, some kind of variable a, and then you're assigning it to some kind of function, which does console log. And you say here, before that happens, you say, you call it. Should have done something. I thought should have done something.
Yeah, it's not voicing it.
Yeah. But if I said var a, oh, it says, oh wait, my type error, a is not a function.
Oh, so that's interesting. So
oh yeah, because what's happening is this. It's saying var A, that's it. And then down here,
That's interesting.
so that means if I say A down here again, oh, shoot. Or is it just stopping there? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, no, the really challenging me a lot.
Steven, I bet you they'll hire you right after.
They definitely they have made it clear that they want to hire me.
Yes.
Like they already offered me a job to if I want to quit.
Well, I saw the posting here.
Support.
No, it was at Pavlik's, like very software engineer jobs. And it was at Pavlik's.
Oh yeah.
This one. I thought it was at Pavlik's. There, this one.
Yep. Yeah,
Was that
new
you?
support specialist. They offered me that job first. Yeah.
That's what I thought. When I first saw that, I thought of you.
Basically, so there's Portal Connector team, which is a really small team that I'm like super blessed to be on.
Yeah.
It's like me and two other programmers and a web designer. And then there's like two other programming departments that are huge. And then basically it's like the elite team I got to put on. Yeah, so,
That's awesome.
But yeah, so they're basically looking for like someone to do. So I've been doing some support. The other developers have been too.
Yeah.
But we've been doing too much support that we don't have time to like add features to the product and do all this stuff. So they're trying to get someone in for that. But it's been crazy because I haven't been doing as much JavaScript there. It's been mostly C# stuff. But like the stuff I've been building has been like just blowing me away because first off, the way the application works, it's like really complex. It's, do you know what Sitefinity is? It's a CMS like for .NET. Okay, so our application is like we build it on top of Sitefinity. Okay, right? So we create like a DLL that you just drop onto your Sitefinity project, right? And then it'll work like that. But it's connected to Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and then we have all these custom plugins that are on Dynamics CRM, and they basically talk back and forth. Yeah, and just like I don't know, the like level of like standards they have there that I have to follow, and like also I've been doing a lot of like bug fixing and stuff like that, and trying to figure out where some of these bugs are coming from. It's so hard because
it's huge.
Like the application's been being developed for over 4 years now. So when I got onto it, there was probably over like 600 files in it. Okay, like it's like just this huge. It's like broken into 8 different projects. I'm just like, oh jeez. So like some of the cool stuff I did recently, like I built a thing for a client asked for us. It was so the Portal Connector, I built a service account on it that would connect to their SFTP server, get a file stream, and actually stream it back to them, and not actually write it to memory. It would actually stream. It would just basically get the file stream and give it back to them, like at a certain chunk size. Pretty cool. I changed like some of the way the encryption works on it.
That's awesome.
It's like form submission stuff. Like it's pretty cool, man.
So good.
It's pretty neat. It's basically their product. If I was to describe it, it's like a CMS for a database. Basically, it's like a drag and drop of a database. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. How's your summer?
Summer was good. I was teaching the Mean Stack to Comp 2068. You did that one in the winter.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I didn't know Angular, so I had to learn it along the way.
Yeah.
I did. I basically copied Rich Freeman's assignment, but I found it challenging because all of his stuff on YouTube and everything else on YouTube is Angular 2. And I was using Angular 6, so there's minor changes. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So everything's outdated.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
They went from 2, like how did that
we went to 2 to 4 to 5 to 6. So
I didn't even know. I thought Angular 2 was the newest.
No.
Wow, okay.
No, so there was like some changes that didn't work for me when I was following Rich's, so I had to figure it out on the fly.
I was actually wondering this today. So what is the difference? What do you think is better, Vue or Angular? What are the differences?
I think based on what I've been reading through Twitter, I keep on seeing Twitter posts that say why we switched from Angular 2.
Yeah.
So one thing I know for sure is that it seems like Angular is no longer everyone's favorite because I know in Angular version 1, they loved it. But as soon as they rewrote Angular completely from scratch from Angular 2 on, they just didn't like it. So philosophically, from an aesthetic, purely aesthetic language standpoint, the level of abstraction of the language itself is ugly in Angular. That's my interpretation. That's why people are gravitating toward either React or Vue.
Yeah.
It's because the ugliness of the language of Angular is why people are moving away. Because the documentation isn't great. So I've been reading, and it's very hard to debug. So Angular's out. I think Angular is on its way out based on the trend that I see.
Yeah. Because I like at my work we use Angular JS, the original.
Okay.
And like I know it's pretty much obsolete. So
what's interesting is I saw another Twitter feed that says they're still maintaining Angular JS version 1 because it's still that popular. People love to use it over Angular 2 and above.
I find it's like kind of challenging though to learn it, especially on the go. Like, because I don't know, like I learned it at school a little bit. I did the Mean Stack class like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but like the way that the application leverages it, that the application I'm working on now, they do some really complex shit with it. That I'm just like, I have no idea how this works, but let's just put some debuggers in here and try to figure out what hits what.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, kind of interesting JavaScript.
Yeah.
Thing that I thought was kind of cool is I never realized how like easy it is to do polyfills in JavaScript.
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool. Literally just like if the function is true, whatever, or your polyfill.
Right.
Like super cool. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like you had a great experience over the summer.
Oh yeah. Still going hard there. They're making me build. So I've been like doing a lot of little isolated things there, and then this co-op, they're giving me like a huge task. I'm building like a paid add-on for the portal connector.
Nice.
So like I'm building like their audit module. So it basically records like things like page navigation, form submission, like CRM queries.
Yeah. So
You know,
just give it to the
users,
thing.
logins, everything.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm like basically building this like new audit solution now. But
Wow.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's pretty awesome, man.
Well, I remember you telling me last time that one day you'll hopefully come back as a teacher.
Hopefully, yeah.
Even if it's not here, but I see you as being a good teacher. I think.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd like to do that one day. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like at least I think I could do it for like ASP, C#.
Yeah.
That'd be my jam.
You could
for sure.
replace her treatment.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't tell him that. Yeah, he's pretty savage when he's not happy. I've seen him like go off on some students before when they're just like being idiots. Like,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, that's
Oh.
cool, man.
Yeah.
So,
So
what
you-
classes are you teaching?
Well, it's just one class each semester. I can't handle two. Although I did get an offer to teach 2 courses this semester, but I said no, I can't handle it because I full-time work with the library and marking and grading.
Yeah.
But I am doing what's called an independent study with one other student for the CSS animation course.
Okay.
Because that course isn't being offered this year or this semester. So he wanted to do this course. So Scott asked me if that's okay. I said yes. And since I'm teaching one course and overseeing one student doing his course independently, so I don't have to teach that. But I'll give him my videos. So.
Oh yeah, I did one independent study. They're kind of cool. Mine I got kind of lucky because I was with Rich, but he basically was like, okay, we're doing a project for I forget it was like called Agima Mobile. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's basically a research innovation center.
Okay.
And my program or the course I had to do was systems analysis.
Okay.
And then they're basically like, you can just be the systems analyst on this project. So I actually just got to like, make all the diagrams for this project, figure out the requirements, interview them and stuff.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was way more fun than like having to do like, I did still read half the textbook in like 1 week.
Right.
That sucks. Yeah, Rich is like, I want you to be like read half the textbook by the time you come back. And I like had 1 week to do it. I'm like, oh shit, dude. Yeah.
That's funny.
So dull. Systems analysis textbook. Yeah.
That's funny.
When I came back, I was like ready to go though. I'm like, I feel like I could be a systems analyst right now.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Actually, do you remember once, because there's one student here, Tatiana. Do you recognize her from the CSS animation course?
Wait.
She was sitting in that corner there.
Is that the chick from like Ukraine or something?
Yeah.
With
So,
blonde hair?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's
so-
here. But
yeah. So both of you are remnants for my CSS image.
yeah. Yeah, you know, so what's that guy's name?
Oh,
Genius, dude.
Ernest.
Ernest. Dude, okay. Apparently I was talking to Ernest and
Like recently, or?
like right before the last semester I did.
Okay.
And he got offered a senior front-end developer job at where was it? Like a big company. Like over $100,000 a year, starting out of school. I'm like, what, bro? Are you serious? But he turned it down because he wanted to like finish his schooling and stuff. I'm like,
Wait a minute. How finished school? I thought you graduated after our course.
so it was like right in the middle of the last semester or whatever. I think it was with a good company. It was like, yeah. When I heard that, I was just like, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Well, I know after our course ended, he went off to work within Georgian for a
Yeah,
while. As
I was on that project. That's the
Oh, okay.
project. I was-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know what it was, but yeah, some
Yeah.
kind of research thing.
Yeah.
He said he was doing some kind of React Native mobile thing.
He's a smart dude.
Oh yeah, for
Like,
sure.
Yeah, being the systems analyst on that project, I got to see him do some crazy stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, yeah, I get why they're offering you this job.
Yeah.
Like, you're just really smart. Yeah,
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, it's kind of cool. He just like, it was funny though, because he had a contract to work for them for like the next like 2 months or something after the semester ended. And I'm talking to him, he's like, yeah, like I'm going to California for like the Google I/O conference. And he's like, I haven't told them yet. But nice, dude.
Oh, so he's at that conference probably. That's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Cool. Yeah.
Oh,
Looking
man.
forward to your class.
so you just do classes and you're working part time and that's it, right? So you're not doing
Yeah.
any copper classes or right now?
No,
Or Cobra
no.
classes?
Yeah, my last semester when I was doing the other co-op, I had like one Cobra class and then two MBW. Done with this, and then last year,
Right.
computer programmer.
Okay.
Should be good because well, there's some classes that are kind of meh. I really am not looking forward to the systems project, 8-month group work. Oh, jeez.
Oh.
Like, okay, the web
Isn't that the
project.
same, isn't that the
Yeah.
same as the web studio kind
Yeah,
of thing?
it's exactly the same, but 4 months longer. I'm like,
Oh.
dude. I'm gonna just be like, hey guys, I'll be the project manager.
Yeah. Pick this and pick better group.
Yeah, and I learned that.
Actually, I guess you already know the people that you're sitting with now, eh?
Yeah,
Assuming?
this is a different program.
Oh, okay.
I like that program. I only had one class with them. I hardly knew any of those
Oh, okay.
guys. So I'm like, great, this is gonna be a shot in the dark. Oh well.
Well, if you do form a group with for this class, you should form with 10. Yeah, I should got 100. My last class. Actually,
yeah?
both my summer class and the previous one, I should got 100.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, like I was like, I had a class or two with these guys, like not last semester, but the one before. And I had like a little crew, like my homies,
Yeah.
and they like all dropped the program. I'm like, what? They're all gone. What?
So what was the end result of your systems project during that winter? Like I know you're doing all the heavy work, heavy lifting of that, and so what did the client end up doing? He like went with Ernest's group instead of yours or something? Like,
No. So basically, there was 2 paid students, and I was doing it as a class. So my job was systems analyst. You had Sam doing all the server side stuff, and then Ernest doing all the client side stuff. So Ernest basically built an app. Sam built an API. I got all the requirements from Michael. I like interviewed him. I came up with like the systems diagram for the whole thing, and then I passed it off to Sam. And then as the project went on, I just monitored it to make sure we were following the requirements.
Oh, okay.
So basically, like I was kind of like, I wasn't developing. I was making sure everything was, kind of like up to what the client wanted. So it was a good project. Yeah, I was so busy that semester. Ernest was dying. That guy, like, yeah, he was like, dude, I haven't hardly slept in like weeks, dude. Like,
Well, I think he moved to Toronto. I think
oh yeah,
that's what Tatiana said. So.
yeah. I'm sure he's working on some big company
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, like doing some awesome stuff. Yeah, his one project in your class, the first one, I was like,
yeah. This the
It's
toggle.
oh no, the sun. It was like the sun to the moon button
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was awesome.
yeah,
I don't even know how you make vectors look like that.
yeah. I know. He said he used Sketch, but I don't even know how to use Sketch. So.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
I
well,
think I'm gonna. I haven't had planned what I wanted to do, but I want to make the first little bit of this semester. I'm gonna build an API for this application I want to build with you.
Okay.
And then by the end of the first half, hopefully I'll be done the API, and then I can take what I learned from your class and apply it on the side. Just build this app out, just for my own it's like kind of like a self-improvement thing for me. So I'm like, yeah.
Actually, for the summer course that I taught, the mean one, as I was learning Node and all that, I experimented with Google Maps so that my browser on my phone would hit the URL with its GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude.
Yeah.
And then once it's received by the Node server, it would display where I am on Google Maps.
Oh wow.
And so I was like in my neighborhood at home at night, putting my laptop on my car so I could see the screen, and kind of like running around the street, seeing if it's moving, and it moved.
Come back, your laptop's gone.
Yeah. So that was kind of neat.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I want to build is pretty simple, but it's kind of like I want to try to like gamify the self-improvement process.
Oh yeah.
So basically build an app where you can like put in skills you want to improve on and then like create like quests for yourself and like make it like stimulation and all that.
Right.
So it's like I'm making myself a better person and I feel good.
Yeah. It's funny. Okay.
Very good.
So the CIS students, this is your first time in Canada, yes? Yeah. So what do you think so far? Good weather, right? Have you experienced snow before? You will. Okay. All right. Let us continue with the next stuff. All right, so the next topic is template literals. So all of you, you've probably already know by now, if you want to concatenate a string, you use the plus sign, as you mentioned during the game this morning or earlier. So if I have a string, I have an integer, and if I want to say a sentence and put those integers together with my sentence, as you know, you have your string and you concatenate it with the plus operator, right? And so if I run it, log, yes. Oh, what's that document? Oh, right. Let me comment that out. Comment. Is there anything else I forgot to comment? No. Okay. I run it. There you go. No big deal. You all know that. Here is the new rules for strings, which is what I want you to what I want to see during your labs and your assignments. I no longer want to see you do this old way of doing strings concatenation. So every time you want to do a string, this is what you're going to do. You're going to use template literals. Okay, so the rule is, number one rule is you use the backtick. So the backtick is this. So to the key to the left of the number 1. That's the backtick, right? So you start off with that. And then to actually insert the variable, you have to use this $ followed by the squiggly brackets. Okay, so here is a reference to MDN. MDN has great documentation. I always use MDN. The template literals are string literals allowing embedded expressions. You can use multi-line strings and string interpolation features. So here's an example. So you notice again, this is not the normal single quotation. Okay, last year I remember some students using the single quotation. They didn't get it. That's because they didn't realize it's the backtick. And you put your expression inside the $ and the squiggly bracket. So whatever you put in here can be interpreted. So it could be a variable. It could be a JavaScript, expression statement. It could be a function call. Any, regular JavaScript can go in there, kind of thing. So here, this. So here I have a function. I just called it my function. If what am I doing here? Const name. What am I doing here? Yes, it's only going to be variable. No, what I'm doing here. What am I doing? Oh, so if I want to say sentence. Right. Oh, right. Yes. I have to uncomment that. Okay. Here is the code above where I have a function and I have a variable name called whiskers, whatever, or called name with a variable whiskers. Transform this old sentence below that's using the old way of concatenating to the new way of template literals. Okay, so, oh shoot, I forgot to. Oh yeah. Okay, I'll move. Okay. So, what do you think it should be here? So the rule number one. What's rule number one? Rules is use the backticks. Okay. So if I'm going to create this sentence all over again, I'm going to say this. So let me just comment this out for now. I'll say const sentence equals. So the rule number one is backticks. So backticks it is there. I have 2 backticks. Rule number 2 is use this funny little thing for your variables. So what would it look like? It would look like this. So I'm trying to emulate this sentence right here. Let me, so this sentence right here. One right here, I'm trying to emulate that into the new way. So it would look like this. My cat space, because there's a space there, and then you have the variable name. How do you do the variable? $, squiggly bracket. And then you put the name in there. After that, there's a space. So I'm going to put a space after the squiggly bracket. Is space, and then a call to my function. So let's put, and that's just to demonstrate that you can run functions there as well. After that, space years old. So space years old. So let me comment out this. Actually, let me comment out the old one. So the new one is now remaining. So when the console logs, it should only be the new one. And let's see if it's the same as this. Run. Right. Cool. So for all your labs and assignments, I no longer want to see the old plus sign for string concatenation. If I do, it's -0.1 for every single plus I see. All right. Next. You may have come across this in your old JavaScript ways. So if you had a string like this and it was like really long, right? Log text. This one here is fine. right? It prints normally. But you may have come across this. So if you had let's pretend you had a really long string and it was the multi-line, that, and you try to run it, what happens? You probably encounter this. You get some kind of error. And do you remember what the solution was back in the old way of doing things for string? Do you remember the solution for this, for multi-lines strings? Anyone? It was this. You have to put a slash at the end of each one to let JavaScript know that, hey, there's something more continuing. So when you run it, then it runs. That was the solution. But it was a very odd solution because that was back then and this is now. So with template literals, you don't have to worry about that. So let me undo that, undo that. So again, template literals, what's rule number 1? Backticks. So let's get rid of this double quote thing. Get rid of the double quotes, put the backtick, which is, again, beside the number 1 key. And then if you run that, there you go. So that doesn't crash out on you. Okay, so use template literals in your assignments or labs. Otherwise, minus 0.1 if you use the plus sign. What's this one here? Oh, I can't do this here. I have to use something else. Made one for this here somewhere. I'm just switching to CodePen because now we're going to deal with some DOM manipulation. So here's my HTML. I don't know if you can see that, or if should I zoom again, or is that okay? That's too much. Okay. So here, the important thing is I just have a blank HTML document. The important part is I have a paragraph tag with the ID of node. Where are we now? Here. So here, I have what kind of data type is this? What kind of data type is this? It's an object, right? How do I access this value? I say what dot what? Book.author, right? Book.author will give me that value. Okay, cool. Now here, I'm declaring a variable, and it's a string. This is just a string. Again, I'm using backticks. That's rule number 1 is using backticks. But I'm putting HTML code for the string. And I'm using the template literal $sign squiggly to insert the variables. So here, I'm inserting inside the HTML the values of the object inside my HTML as I'm making the string. So by the time this string completes, it will have the values inside it. And now I can do something with that string that has the values inside it. What can I do? And this should be a review for you. Show of hands who's already learned document.getElement by ID. So you already know what that does. So notice I'm getting node. So that's up here, right? So it's going to do something with this node, right? And what am I doing? I'm going to say dot inner HTML. Show of hands who's learned dot inner HTML before. Perfect. So what I'm saying is inside this paragraph element, the inner HTML, what that does is it's going to insert inside here where this cursor is flashing. It's going to insert all of this HTML here with the values included, right? Right. That's what I'm saying here. So let me see here. Why is it giving me a complaint? Oh, I forgot to comment out that. Is there anything else I forgot to comment out? Yes, comment out that. And I think that's it. Yes. So there. So you can see what's happening here. So if I right-click this to inspect the HTML, you'll see the original paragraph tag with the ID of node. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Here is my original, right? This is my original PID with node. Inner HTML inserts everything that I had in that string, including the variables. Does that make sense? Good. Next. Okay. This is where I want you to try this yourself. So let me uncomment this for a second. And let me put this URL into Blackboard. So YouTube Live. I'm going to edit the YouTube Live for a second. Exercise. Try this. Whoop. Okay, so go into Blackboard. Okay, this is where I want you to get your feet wet in terms of actual coding now. So here's a gentle dip into the water to remind yourself and refresh yourself with JavaScript. So go into Blackboard and go to this link here. Hopefully you will see. Oh, I can't even. That happened for you too. You can't copy. That kind of sucks. And let me just see student preview for a sec. Oh no, you can. Okay. So if you're a student, you can do that. Okay. Exit preview student. All right. So go to my CodePen link that I put on the latest announcement there, and try your hand. I'll give you a couple of minutes to try this. So write the code between the p tags to output the name, the artist, and the album of the music object above. So here is the same kind of thing. I've given you an object called music. I want you to write the code right here between the p tags. That will output the name, the artist, and the album of the music object. As you can see below, I did the rest of the code for you so that it will display here. So go ahead and take a couple minutes and try that out yourself. It's very important that you try it yourself because your lab and assignments will depend on it. Yes. Yes. Yes, I can come around to help if you need. Basically, go to Blackboard and I'll show you on my screen. So go to announcements. Sorry, what was your name again? What was your name again? Yeah, so go to announcements and it's right here, this link, exercise, under YouTube Live. So go there and then you will see this screen. Okay. And it doesn't matter how you output it, as long as it's outputted, that's all I care about right now. You're done? Okay, great. So let's you tell me what did you type, and I will type it. So tell me what you typed. H2 tag. You had an H2 tag here. Okay. And what did you say within that? Dollar. Yep. Yep. And what's within that? Name. Okay. Anything else? One paragraph tag. Is this H2 tag within the P, or is it outside of the P? I just want to verify, because this is semantic outside. Yeah, it should be outside. Otherwise, it's semantically incorrect, right? Yeah, it should be outside the P. And then you had, okay, so you had a P, and then what did you say in there? You said what? Yep. Yep. Okay. And same with the album, right? Oh, different paragraph? Okay, yep. So there. So you had something like this, right? perfect. Everyone get that? Right? Pretty much? Easy, right? Easy? Easy. Good. All right. Okay. Oh, there's my template. Okay. What I'm going to show you now is a quick 5-minute video outlining to you some of what you just learned today, as well as a couple of other new things that ES6 provides. And I'm hoping that when you watch this, it will open your eyes to see the power of JavaScript. I remember last year, some of the students didn't realize what JavaScript was, what console log was, like why, like they didn't understand what JavaScript, how JavaScript worked within the browser. So I'm hoping that this will open your eyes to what it can do.
So you need a website. Let me show you how I made mine with Wix. First, I went to Wix.
Quick show of hands. Who here has LinkedIn? All right.
Everybody, Wes Boss here. I wanted to do sort of a fun code along, and that is I've got all these LinkedIn notifications because I never go on LinkedIn, but I don't want to have to click accept like a sucker, and also I don't want to accept the recruiters because they just send me emails about exciting opportunities. So what I want to do is let's programmatically do it, and if this says recruit or anything like that, then we don't click accept. Otherwise, I don't care. Everyone else can come on in the party. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to accept all of these. And what I did is I inspected this LI, and it has a class of invite-card. So I'm going to say document.query selector all.invite-card. And that gives me a huge node list of every single person that has invited. Now that is not yet an array, so we can use ES6 spread to convert that to a real array here. So that does everything that I want. Now I just want to loop over them. So I'm going to bring my code in here so it's a little bit saner to loop over. So we are going to use .for each on it. And for each card, we want to do, let's just console log, make sure that it's still working. Paste that in. Good. I'm getting a console log of each an individual card. Now we need to make a couple of variables. One for this actual thing right here. So what is that? That's a paragraph with the class of headline. So I will say const headline equals card.query selector, because now we actually just want to look inside of that specific card for the headline. And then I'm going to call that text content on it. Why? Because I just want the text inside of it, not the actual element. So let's see the headline. Great. Now I'm getting like what people are: front-end engineer, software engineer. Now that we have that, we also need the buttons so that we can click them. We'll say const accept equals card.query selector. Same thing. We all want to look for what is it? There's a class on here. bt-invite accept. Let's just double check that we are also getting the accept button working. Looks like it. Good. Now I need to filter these buttons for anything that says recruit. So we will say if headline.match recruit, and we want to just make it global and case insensitive. And the reason I say recruit is because it could be recruitment, recruiter, and recruit will just match them all. If they are, then console log, nah. And maybe we'll also grab their name as well. Const name equals card.query selector. Name equals query selector. What is their name? And oh, it's a name with last name. Content. Nah, name looks a little fishy to me. Maybe we'll get a little bit of emoji up here. That one looks good. A couple of them. Else, also log, name looks cool, let them in. Couple emojis make it nice and fun. Cool. So now let's do a dry run on this. Hey, what do we got here? Looks cool, looks cool, looks cool. Let's go to the first one, recruiter right here. Gen recruitment and talent acquisition specialist. Looks a little fishy to me, not something I can let on in. Cool. So now that our filters are working properly, we can go ahead and I'm just going to click the button accept. So I should end up with a whole bunch of recruiters here that have not yet accepted. So I'm going to say accept, click. That will force or trigger a click on the actual element. I'm going to run it again one last time. Whoa! All right, looks like I accepted like 60 people all at once. What's left? There's a whole bunch of recruiters. I could go through this again, and I could select the deny button and programmatically click that as well. Actually, let's go ahead and do that real quick here. You see that all of them are still popping up. 12. There's a couple left here. BTN invite decline. And then we could say decline. Programmatically click that. If I run it again. Gone. Everybody is done. I'm off to the races. So that's kind of a fun little code along. You're going to learn a little bit about the spread. You can learn a little bit for each. We use an arrow function here. We selected the things. We triggered a click. We use a regex. A bunch of little things all put together for 5 minutes versus something like taking 10 minutes yourself. Programming together for.
I'm going to open it up for like question and answer for his code. No doubt there's something here, some things here that you probably didn't understand. And I'll answer them to the best of my ability as quickly as possible. We are going to cover some of the things that he talked about, but I'm going to open it up for questions that you have on his code. Go. Sure. So basically, regular expression is a way to test strings for a certain pattern of letters. And if it matches, then you get that string, like it's included, and you can do something with it. Yes, exactly. Yes. If you ever go to university and take your Bachelor of Computer Science, there's a whole course on regular expressions. Yeah, it's yeah. Another question. Yes. Very good. Okay, so this for each. Let me see if I can. Okay. So this is. Let's go check MDN for a second. One of those methods that you can work with arrays. So think of you know for loops, right? For loops. Think of for each like a for loop, except you don't have to deal with I++, and you know it'll take each element in the array for you, and you don't have to worry about the I++ part, and you can do something with that. So notice here, this represents the individual element in the array as it steps through the array. So the first time it goes in the array, it looks at the first element. This card represents now the first element. And then you can do something with that card, and that's what he's doing here. And so where does this end? It ends basically here. So after this code is done for that first element in the array, then the for each will go to the next element, which in this case is the next recruiter or whoever, right? And go through the same process. Question: this arrow, you've never seen this before. We are going to talk about this next week. This is called an arrow function. This is new in JavaScript in ES6. Arrow functions were invented to make life easier for you as a programmer in terms of this readability and succinct. Coders realized that you don't have to say function, bracket, parameter, close bracket, squiggly bracket, close squiggly bracket, just every time you want to do a function. You could just do something like this: card, arrow, squiggly bracket, and it's the same thing. The arrow function is exactly the same thing as a regular function, except with there is one exception, which I'll talk about later. But yes, for now, think arrow function is exactly the same thing as a regular function. So this code here, if I said to you after the round bracket, if I said function, open bracket card, close bracket, and then the squiggly bracket for the rest of the code in that function, same exact thing. Question. So in the match one, the regex, whenever you're using regular expressions, this slash indicates that, okay, you're using a regular expression now. So whatever comes after the slash is totally different. Like I am, in this case, I'm looking for one character that's a capital letter. That's it. And the slash G means global kind of thing. So sorry, I missed the last part of your question. Why is this using a slash instead of a what? The backticks. Okay, so the match, so the slash again represents something totally different than the backticks. Yes, you are using strings, but the regular expression is another way of using strings, but their way, regular expression way. So you got regular expression way, you got backticks way, but because we want to match, it's using the regular expression way. You can't do that with backticks. Yeah. Another question? Yeah. Excellent question. So this is new in ES6.2. We'll get to that as well. In this case, it's called a spread operator. So what happens is, let's say you have an array of different elements. What the 3 dots will do is it'll spread out the array easily for you without having you to worry about things like, I wish I'd chalk. Maybe, okay, well, MDM spread. Okay, so here, we have an array of numbers. Here, they're saying dot, dot, dot numbers, which means that it's spreading out each of the elements in the array out so that this function can actually accept those arguments because it's already spread out. That's probably the easiest way for now to explain it. Because if you didn't have the dot, 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 you'd have much more code to make that happen as easy as that. Any last questions? Cool. Okay, here is our in-class exercise worth 3%. Due hopefully at the end of class. If not, due midnight tonight. Okay. So this is where I'd like for you to create a CodePen account. If you don't want to create a CodePen account, you can. That's cool too. You can just submit your work through Azure or DreamHost or whatever, and submit that link to me. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to create this kind of Twitter thing just for you. And we're going to use what we learned today to replace the image with your image, replace the name with your name, using JavaScript objects with the dot, the dot name, the dot whatever, using things like document dot query selector to actually grab the elements so we can change it and things like that. So, so I listed the steps here that I want you to do. So we're going to because this is an in-class exercise, all in-class exercises we are going to do together. It's only the labs that you have to do it on your own and submit it for Friday. So, so this is different. Last year I didn't do this, but because I've taught a couple of other courses, I like the style of Scott McCrindle. So this in-class exercise we will do together. You submit it, you get your 2%. Lab will be very similar to this, except a little bit different, and that you have to do it on your own. Okay, so this one I'm scaffolding in terms of teaching theory. I'm helping you do it on your own, but then you're on your own. Okay, so open up CodePen if you have one. If you don't have one, you can use Visual Studio Code. We're going to create a new pen. Okay, so class Twitter. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is let us go to this website here called tachyons.io. So go to this website called tachyons.io. Inside that website, you'll see a link called Components on the upper right corner. So at the top, upper right corner, you'll see this Components. Click on that. And then just underneath Components, there's another nav called Lists. Click on Lists. And let's choose, you can choose either the square one or the circle one for the Twitter-like thing. I like the circle one. I think it looks cool. So just click on the circle Twitter one. Okay, so now you should be seeing this. So your job will be similar to what we just did in class. Your job today is you're going to just take one of these profiles and to make it match you. Okay, and I'll tell you how to do that. So if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see the HTML code for this to make this happen. So go ahead and copy that, all of that HTML code, Control-C. Control-C to copy. Go back to your HTML file, wherever that happens to be, whether it's CodePen or your own Visual Studio Code, whatever you're doing, and paste it in to your HTML. So now you have just the pure HTML with no styling whatsoever. So how do we include the styling? Well, Tachyons is a CSS framework, so what would you expect at the styling? You would expect somewhere here, like a getting started or something. So let's come back here. Aha, so if you go back to tachyons.io, their very first homepage there, you see a getting started. So here is the CSS, which is going to unpackage.com. So within CodePen, what's really neat with CodePen is that you can just copy the link itself. You don't have to actually, like, if I wanted, I could copy the whole HTML and put that into HTML as well. But within CodePen, I can just copy the link itself. So from the H all the way to the S, copy that in CodePen. And then, do you see this gear icon? This gear icon for CSS right here? The gear icon for CSS. If you click on that and scroll down a bit, you'll see places where you can paste in your URL for your CSS. So once you paste in your URL for your CSS, click on Save and Close, and it should look different now. Show of hands, who's gotten this far? Cool. Show of hands, who's lost? Okay. Let me do that one more time, real quick. So within tachyons.io, you're going to click on Components. You're going to click on Lists, and then you're going to click on this one right here for the Twitter thing. Okay. So what this website is telling you is, hey, my CSS framework called Tachyons can make your stuff look like this. Here's how to do it. Scroll down. So copy all of this HTML. We'll see. And put it in here. So if you happen to be using regular Visual Studio Code and not using, like, actually, let me show of hands who's using just Visual Studio Code or some other editor that not CodePen. Okay, let me do it that way. So here we go. Let's say in class. Right, go in there. So let's create index.html. There we go. Here's a tip for you. Within Visual Studio Code, if you just quickly type exclamation mark and then tab, it creates a basic template for you for HTML. So notice how I did that real quick. So just exclamation mark, tab, and it already writes the skeleton for you. Okay. So within the body tag, I can just paste in the HTML that I just got. And then because I'm using traditional way, let me go back to getting started. Getting started, there it is. So I'm going to use this now, the whole link tag, and put that in my head here. Link, there, done. So if you view this in a browser, it should look okay. There, right? Good. Same thing. All right. The next thing I want you to do is replace the image with your image from GitHub. So Who here does not have GitHub? Everyone here has GitHub? Good. So, yes. Keep in mind, I am live streaming this, so if I happen to be going too fast, you can always play it back home and see and review it just to make sure you're caught up. So here's what I want you to do right now. Just open up a new tab on your browser and type this: api.github.com/users/av/your username. Whatever your username is for GitHub, you type that in. So mine is avcoder, yours is whatever. You type that in, you should see something like this on your screen. Just to make sure that you got the right URL, it's api.github.com/users with an S / your GitHub username. So if you open up a new tab, again, here's the URL. It's api.github.com/users/username. Show of hands who sees something from their profile. Good. Okay. Question: what kind of data type is that? An object. Okay. Yes and no. What you're seeing is called, it's a 4-letter acronym. Anyone care to guess what that is? Yes. Yes, JSON. What does JSON stand for? It's an acronym standing for something. JavaScript Object Notation, correct. So just like how you created objects before in today's class, like .named, whatever, same thing here. However, what's special about this is this data is coming directly from GitHub itself, right? It's not some HTML page. It's pure data in JSON format. And the cool thing is, later on in this course, I'll show you a similar command to the XHR HTML request called fetch, where we can actually fetch this dynamically from GitHub. And once we have it, we can do something with it. For now, we'll just copy and paste statically. So I want you to copy all of that. Control-C, and we're going to put it in our code as one gigantic object. So in your code, in your JavaScript portion of your code, type const, and then give it some variable name. I don't care what variable name. I'll call it profile equals. So right now, I have const profile equals. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm just going to simply paste. Paste. That's it, right? Because this whole thing is an object. This whole thing is an object. So in the future, just like what we did with the music.name, music.album, in the future, in our code, we could say, in my code, I could say profile dot, one of these, profile.login, profile.id, profile.avatar URL, right? And get the value of that. Same thing, same difference. So here's what I want you to do. Take a couple of minutes, try it yourself, replace the image. Oh, wait, hold on. Before we replace anything, I want you to get rid of everything here except for one entry. So I just want you to deal with one simple entry. So forget the rest, delete the rest of the HTML, just get one entry in there. So look, examine the HTML markup, see how it's organized, and delete everything except one entry. Okay, so as you may have noticed the pattern, everything seems to be within an article tag. So if I delete all the article tags except for one, I should be okay. So here, you should have something like this on my screen, right? Just left with one. That's what I want you to do. Now, step one here, replace the image with your GitHub image. Question: where in this list do you see your GitHub image? Answer: yeah. Zach? Right. So here, avatar URL, it gives you a link to your image. Like if you actually go to that link, click it, there's my image for under GitHub. Right? If you click on yours, you'll have some other image, maybe a default image. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Use that now. Take a couple minutes, and knowing what you know now, knowing what you learned today, I want you to replace the image on for this guy here. So let me start you off. Actually, no, there's one thing I didn't teach you that you need to know for this task. So let me start you off. What's the first thing I need to do something with that element? How do I get it? How do I grab it, programmatically speaking? Yes. Yeah, so document dot query selector, okay? Let's say, so what are we gonna query select? So let's examine this image element. So where's this image element? It's right here. So what, Jaden, do you want? It's Jaden, right? Awesome. So how do you want to capture that element? There's a couple of different ways. How do you want to do it for query select? ID, there is no ID. Now I could use, yeah. In this case, because this is the only image, I could just use image, right? So within here, I could say just image. Okay. Oh, but by the way, I'm doing it in the wrong one. I should not be under HTML. I should be under JavaScript. Okay. So here. So okay. Let's put that in a variable. We'll call it const image equals. So now I grab the element. Okay. Let's just prove to ourselves. Let's prove to ourselves so that we actually got the image. If I just say console log image and look at the console, there it is. See, I actually got that node element. Okay, which means I can do whatever I want with that node. I can change any attribute. I can do whatever. Okay, so this is something I didn't teach you yet, but let's try. Let me just show you this real quick. Because we got that node element in image, if I do a right-click inspect here and look at the console, okay, so there you see that image source. Okay, hold on, I wanted something else. FYI, there's other types of consoles. Instead of console.log, don't do this. Just watch. If I say console.dir, that's something different in my console. So here's the console.log, but here's the console.dir. And notice there's an arrow here, which means I can expand it. And I can see everything related to that node, including the attribute that's responsible for the image, which is this one, of course. So knowing that what kind of data type is this, by the way? Well, it's an object. Here's one of those secrets. Almost everything in JavaScript is an object. Arrays are actually objects. Functions are actually objects. Which means that to access the source, how do I access the source? Just like what? What do I have to say in my code? If I want to, you now saw that source attribute. How do I access it if it's an object? Right. So I got my object here. What can I do with it? Image dot what? Image dot what to change the source? What was that? The name of the attribute that you saw? Source. Right. So image dot source equals. Okay. And based on what Zach said my GitHub image is here, avatar URL. So how can I change that? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to try to figure that out. Yep. So here we go. So equals profile dot, what was it? Oh, crap. Profile dot avatar URL. So let me just copy that so I don't misspell it. There. You should get your own image now. Show of hands who got that. 1, 2. Uh-oh. You don't have it. You have to create your own GitHub account. It's mandatory for here. If you don't upload an image, it'll give you a default image. Just use that one. Yeah. Question. It might be a typo. So make sure it's API, right? .github.com/ yeah. It's yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. So we replace the image. That's step number 1. That's great. Step number 2, replace the name with your GitHub name or GitHub bio or whatever. Doesn't matter. Just pick one and replace it. So I'm going to choose my bio. So my bio says library tech. That's what I am. My profession. So I'm going to do the same thing. So we're doing the same thing. Okay. So how do I grab the element? Document.something, right? Document.query selector. What shall we grab it on? So let's look. Joel, how do you think we should grab the name? This one right here, this Young Gatchel. Where is that in our? Here it is. So how do you want to grab that element with query selector? Class. We could do by class. Yep. I heard here by ID. Let's just for the sake of different, different ways to do the same thing. Let's say, for example, we had an ID, right? And we'll call it H1. Might as well. ID equals H1. So now I can query select that ID. So how do I do that in my JavaScript? If I'm dealing with an ID instead of, so before we were just dealing with an image tag. Now we're actually dealing with an ID. So how do I do that? What do I put in here? What? H1. If I wanted, okay, wait, hold on. Okay, let's make this a little bit more obvious. We'll call it name. ID is name. Okay, what do I do now? What do I do? What's inside the query selector to get that? Hash name, correct. Because we're dealing with an ID, it's hash name. Okay, remember that? So now that we got it, okay, we can do something with it. This should be a review. How do you change the text inside an element? What's the dot method? What is it? Dot. Dot inner HTML. Yes and no. Something simpler that doesn't deal with HTML. Just the text itself. Text content. So let's do that. So let's assign this to a variable. So const name equals document.query selector hashtag name. Now let's change the text content. So let's say name.text content, and that accesses the whatever is inside the tag in terms of text, and we'll make it equal to what? Let's choose my bio. So mine is profile.bio. Yours could be profile.something. Doesn't matter. Okay. Notice how as soon as I finished that line, it changed it to library tech. Where is library tech found? It's found right here, which is under the bio key, right? Which I accessed through profile.bio, right? Think about it, all coding really is just substitution of different variables through a whole bunch of different ways and doing something with that data. Just a lot of substitution. Okay, great. What's the next step for this in-class exercise? Step 3, replace the code name with your GitHub code name. Okay, so where's your GitHub code name? It is found where? A couple different places. It could be the .login maybe. Yeah, sure. Let's try the .login, right? .login. So login, we'll use that one. So do the same thing. Change this @YG. But I want you to make sure you have the @ in there. Okay? So here we go. Const code name equals document.query selector. Let's try something different this time. We've tried actual elements. We've tried IDs. Let's try classes this time, just for the heck of it. So code name. Let's see here. How do we grab the code name from here? Okay, so here it is. Class. You know what? I'm just going to put a unique class name here. So inside this H2 class, I'm just going to randomly put something called unique. I know it doesn't do anything, but at least I can grab onto it just to prove a point. So now, how do I grab onto that using query selector? So how do we do classes? We know how to do IDs. We know how to do elements. How do we do classes with it? Answer. Was that? With a period, yes. So it's dot, whatever the class name that you're targeting. Okay. Now we can do something with that. So code name dot text content equals what did I say? What's a goal? Oh, GitHub username, right? So I think it was just for me it was just profile.login. Oops, I forgot something there. Okay, I wanted the @ in there. So now here's my question to you. I did not want this AV coder by itself. I wanted the @ in there. What is the solution? To have @AV coder. It's a string, right? So I want a string. That's the solution. I want a string. Question, what kind of string are we going to use in this class? The backticks. The backtick method. So I want @AV coder. That's the goal. So how do I do that using backticks? Joel, go. Yep. Ben? Yep. 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 There you go. Awesome. Good stuff. I got that. Again, in your labs and assignments, I want this way of template literals with the backticks. I don't want the regular single quotes or double quotes or plus signs. Otherwise, it's -0.1. Question? Not working? There might be just a typo. Maybe it's a simple typo. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay, the next step, the next little challenge is step 4. Modify that same thing that you just did, modify it so it's an anchor link that links to your GitHub profile. Question, if you look at your JavaScript object here, where is your GitHub profile? Where's the link that links to your GitHub profile here? URL. So I'm going to access this. So profile.url will give me that. Perfect. Okay. So how do I make this into HTML instead of just text? And what was your name? Sorry, Matt. This is where your answer comes in. Yeah. So let me comment exactly. So let me comment this text content line out. And this time we're going to say codename.innerHTML because we're going to use some inner HTML in here. I'll still have the backticks. I'll still have the @Twitter or sorry $$ profile login. Okay. So it looks the same here, but because we're using inner HTML, we can actually insert HTML in there. So let's go ahead and insert HTML of an anchor tag. So notice I'm putting an anchor tag, anchor href equals something, and I'll end it with the anchor, the A. So far, if you look at my web page, it's clickable. It's just not going anywhere right now. So how do I put my GitHub URL in there in href? Yeah, I'm at. Yeah, exactly. $ thingamajig and say profile.url. And that's it. So if I click on this, if I right click, open new tab, it now goes to oh, hold on. That didn't quite work. Oh, sorry. Yep. Thank you. So that I did the wrong one. It should not be URL. It should be HTML_URL. That's the right one. So let's go do that one. So instead of profile.url, it's HTML_URL. Now, if I click on this one, right click, open new tab, it should go to my GitHub. There, done. Easy? Right? Hopefully. By the way, your assignment 1 is full of this stuff. Okay, next up. Make the button, so we have a follow button, right? Make the button respond to clicks so that upon click, the text changes from follow to following or vice versa. All right. So what are we dealing with here? What special way to handle events that you already know? What are we dealing with? What's the method to handle click events? What's that name? It was in the game earlier. It was called add event listener, right? If you want to handle clicks, you need an event handler. The basic one is add event listener. So first of all, what do we need to do to handle clicks for the button? Same thing as before. We need to grab it, right? So let's grab the thing. So document dot query selector. Actually, I'm going to do something a little bit different just to remind us all that something different. So for the button, just for sake of learning, for the button, I'm going to put an ID equals button submit, whatever. Okay, whatever name you want there. So I have an ID, a unique ID for button. So I'm going to grab it differently. Instead of query selector, I'm going to use the old-fashioned get element by ID. What's the difference though? What goes in the strings though? Is there something different about this? It's not. What goes in here? Answer. Correct. It's the same thing, but you don't need the hash. So it's button. What did I just type? Submit. Right. Submit. So that gives me the same thing. Okay. Let's put that in a variable called const button equals. Okay, so now we have that button. Let's just prove it again. If I say console log button, I should see it here, and there it is. It just appeared. Okay. So now we can do something with that. What do we want to do? We want to handle clicks, which is an event. So how do you handle events? You say whatever element you just grab dot add event listener. By the way, don't use jQuery in any of your assignments in labs. Unlike last year, I noticed a lot of people are using jQuery. No jQuery in this course. We'll deduct marks for that. We're trying to move away from jQuery. Button dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for a click. Click is just one of many events. You could have something like key press or key down or key up or mouse click kind of thing. We're just looking for a click here, and the syntax is comma after click, and we are going to the function, a callback function. Okay. To prove ourselves that our click button is working, I'm just going to say console log button was clicked. Okay. Hear that? So notice how I have a add event listener click, and when it's clicked, it will run whatever's inside this anonymous function, and it'll say button was clicked. So let's try it. Follow there. See, button was clicked. So it's working. Our actual handling of an event of click is working. So which means we can do anything in that code what we want. So again, the goal is to try to change the content, the text content from follow to following and vice versa. I want you to take 5 minutes to figure out the logic for that. Yeah. This console shows up if I click on this button for console. Keep in mind, I don't like this console in CodePen. It doesn't show as much as the regular Chrome browser would do, so it's only good for simple things. It doesn't like large objects. It'll crap out on you if you try to display large objects. So take 5 minutes and figure out a way to change the text content of this word follow into following when it's clicked, and vice versa. When you click it again, it'll go back to the original follow. Try to figure out that. Try to figure out the logic for that. You'll need if statements. You'll need access to .text content. You'll need to compare strings, perhaps. I don't know. There's lots of ways to do this. Take 5 minutes on that. I'll time it. Timer 5 minutes. What else do we have to do? Yeah, easy, easy. Right. Okay. Oh, question, Jaden.
Number 5, make the button responsive. So I gave you infrastructure. So basically, if you have it, I can split up, just make it a show call. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I can show you the infrastructure for that.
So here's the infrastructure for that.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, so it's not within this. There, so scroll down. There, so paste the CSS. It could be that way, but just do the generator. No, this way. Yeah. Should we get started? No, you don't need this one to do that. You just grab this. Each, just this each, not even each, just this each. Just grab that. Yeah. Now we start it. Yes. Let's see. So now it looks different. Yeah, it should have looked different as soon as you see the CSS. It should have looked like. Just all together.
All right. So you could have done a couple different ways. I'm curious how. Oh, you have questions? Just Okay, we're gonna move on. I'm curious to see, show of hands, who got it? Who got it working? Anyone? No? Oh, okay. All right. So I'll just do a quick attempt at my stab at it. So let's say we want to change this from follow to following if I'm clicked upon. So I could say this. I could say button dot text content, but I'm going to say something else. I'm going to say this. And the reason is I'm already inside this button. So if I say console log this, I should see there. See, this is actually that actual button. So I could say this dot whatever instead of button dot whatever, which would be a little bit more correct. So this dot text content. Let me try this. Console log this dot text content. What should that give me if I click on this? Give me plus follow, right? So which means I can set it to something else. So if I say this dot text content equals something else like following, okay, and then I know why you're having trouble. I just realized. So if I click on this right now, there was a brief moment in time where it did change. Anyone got this? Where it did change and it went back? Okay, no. Here's the $1 million question. Why do you think it's doing that? And it's something to deal with the markup, HTML side. Yeah. Yes. Yes. What's your name? Nice going, Vivian. So if you examine the HTML for a second, you'll notice that this button is within what tag? The form tag, which means by default, this type submit is going to submit a GET request. It's actually going to try to get some new HTML data. So what I want you to do is get rid of this form tag. Just say, instead of form, say div. Okay. I just realized that I gave you a 5-minute exercise and I didn't teach you a couple of things. So okay. So once I change it to div, it's no longer a form. And so now if I click it, it works. One thing I forgot to mention is another thing that you could have done if you had left it just as a form, you could say this, event.prevent default. And that was in the game earlier today. So what that will do is it'll prevent the form from actually submitting the form, right? So now if I click on follow, it goes to following, okay? And then you'll have to figure out the logic to make it go the other way. I don't want to do that right now. It's almost out of time. So, but it's pretty simple logic. I would probably do something like this. I would probably say if this dot text content equals equals plus follow, then what does that mean? Then we want this text content to equal the other one, following. Otherwise, this.text content equals follow. I think is something, I don't know. Let's see if that works. So let's see. Follow, following. Hey, it works. Great. So there you go. Right? Something like that. Next task. And we're almost done for today. Step 6, console info the output if user is being followed or unfollowed. So within this, you remember how I said there's different things, different kinds of console dot whatever. So another one that you may not know about is console.info. So here I'll just say console.info following user, and then for the other one I'll just say console.info unfollowing user. Okay. So if I click on, I should see there in the console following user. Click it unfollowing user. Now this is remember how I said I don't like the console within CodePen? If you were to examine the same thing within the browser itself, so if I right click and inspect and look at the console that way, oh man, that's huge. By the way, if you want to clear your console, just like hit Control L, that clears it. And then here, follow there. So that's your console.info. It looks very similar to console.log. But yeah, that's console.info. Another one that I want you to check out is this one, console.table. So console.table the object if the user is being followed. So check this out. Instead of console.info, or maybe just underneath it, I'll just say this, console.table. And I'll display that. So let me save that, and I won't do it within this console. I'll do it within the Chrome console. So check this out. If I click it, check out my console. Click. Whoa. See what happened? So it just displayed a console.table of my entire object in a nice table format. Cool, eh? Some people prefer that instead of looking at the actual regular way of looking at the object. Same difference. And the final thing is submit your CodePen link and private GitHub link of your uploaded work to Blackboard. So when I say private GitHub link, that means I assume you've used Visual Studio Code. If you use CodePen, your CodePen link should be fine. And I will accept your CodePen link. If you didn't use CodePen link, then send me your GitHub stuff, and that's fine too. So that is your in-class exercise. Easy 2%. We did it together. Here is your lab for homework. Same difference. I'm going to give you this template. You have to just eliminate all these email entries and just narrow it down to one. And replace the image with some data, fake data that I'm going to give you, and submit that. Okay, so you're replacing the image, you're replacing the name, you're replacing the subject line, you're replacing the body. So you're basically replacing all this data right here. So same thing we've done here, except we're using different markup template and different data. Here's the markup template. Notice here I have a link similar to the in-class exercise. Take this pure CSS email template. So if you Google, I'll show you how I got this. Pure CSS. Pure CSS is a regular CSS framework, just like Bootstrap. They have a nice template thing called layouts. And under layouts, they have different layouts for different things. One of them is called email. We're going to use this. So download their email markup. Do the same thing where you're going to eliminate all of these emails, delete all of these emails, so you're just left with one. Change the data for the image, the name, the subject line, the data. Where are you going to get the data from? Notice here I said get data from Mockaroo.com. Mockaroo.com is a nice fake data provider. For example, here's a set of data of ID, first name, last name, emails. And if I click on preview right now, click on preview. Oh, hold on. Let me just narrow it to 10. I don't need 1,000. Just give me 10. Preview. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't want CSV. I wanted JSON. There, preview. Boom. So now you have all of this, right? Actually, I don't even need that many. I just need one, right? One, preview, right there. Okay. Now notice that I just noticed something here that might throw you off, so I'll give you a hint right now. If you compare that with your GitHub, notice how it starts with a squiggly bracket for GitHub, but here Where'd it go? It started with an array bracket. So you're accessing it a little bit differently. So if you have const variable name equals this, you can't just say variable name.id. You have to say variable name array bracket 0 array bracket .id. That's right. And also, I want you to point out that I'm asking you for different fields. So if you click on this type row number, you will see all kinds of cool fields that you can get. You can get images from here. You can get, a subject line. Figure something out. It doesn't say subject, it says something else, but figure out something like catchphrase for the subject line, whatever. There's something called paragraph here for the body. There's dates here. So whatever you pick, car. So buzzword, whatever. So, and then when you click on preview, it'll give you, whatever. Where's my buzzword? Oh, here, multi-channel under. Oh, there it is. There's my buzzword, multi-channel. So get your fake data from Mockaroo is what I'm saying. And once you set your fields, once you set your names, once you set your fields to the way you want it, okay, I'm giving you liberty on how you want the fields to be and how you want the field names to be. Once you grab that data, copy that, put it in your JavaScript just like before, and access it just like before to replace the image, the name, subject, the body. And this is the challenge. Number 5 is a little bit of a challenge. Make it so that when you click on the email, whatever was here before will display whatever data was here, right? Right. So if my Mockaroo data was, let's go back to Mockaroo for a second. So let's say instead of ID, I'll just say body for the whatever. I'll choose. I think there's something here called paragraph, which is some lorem ipsum text. Paragraph. There, paragraph. Boom. Right. So then preview. So notice here body and some junk lorem ipsum text. That's fine. So that means when you display this, this is coming from here, and hopefully for step 5, when you click on this, it'll also display here. That's your challenge. Cool? Due Friday. Good luck. That's the end of class. I'm hanging around if you have any questions. All right. See you next week. Yes. Oh, hold on. Let me just close my YouTube for a second. I think.